Hey, y'all, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, this is Joe and Jay Outspoken. Remember to follow all of our platforms. You can find them by going to Linktree/Joe and Jay Outspoken. We are on Rumble, Locals, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X. Today's show is for Tuesday, August 22nd. I'm Jay, and today Joe and I are going to be going over what's expected of a man in today's society, what today's women look for, and how the XY gender is struggling to find a place in this ever-changing world. All right, Joe. We ready for this one?
I'm ready.
Be more of a man, just not so toxic. All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining in today. We've got a subject we're going to go over today, and we wanted to kind of preface this. We are going to have some phone numbers listed on the screen during, before, after the programming here. If anybody is ever struggling with anything, know that we really care, and that's what this episode is all about. If you've never watched our program all the way to the end, we have numbers for all kinds of different things to help folks out. So please, hold off to the end, but we'll have them throughout on this episode. So, all right, Joe. So here we go.
Here we go.
What's it like being a guy? Can you explain that to me?
Well, no, but yes. Well, here's the thing. It's not so much as what I think is a guy. It's more like what does society think is a guy? What do women think is a guy? Is probably the more key question here. What are the expectations nowadays? Like growing up, I had my kids, growing up as a father, as most fathers do, you raise your children to be self-sufficient, right? Your males, your boys to be self-sufficient, right. Learn basic things of life, right? Whether it's changing oils in your cars, cutting the grass, stuff like that. My kids, a lot of that stuff they learned on their own, unfortunately, but like cutting grass, my kids were up early in the morning out there cutting grass. Now, would I have taken my daughter out there? Probably not. Only because, it being Mexican, we're very traditionalist, right? We have a role that we play
right.
in traditionally as being Mexican. And that the role is that the male is the protector of the family, right? He's the head of the household, right? I mean, it's in your taxes, right? They ask you who's head of household, right? So we're the head of the household. We take care of our family. They're the priority. We work for them. Everything we do is about what surrounds our family, our dwelling, and everything about it. And that's how you raise your kids. You raise your boys to be right. The masculine role, to play that role. And then you play your daughter, even though, as she was a baby, she was daddy's little girl. But, I spank my boys. I'd hardly spank my daughter, right? Because in your mind, you don't want her to grow up thinking that it's okay for a man to beat her, right? To discipline her, right, in any way. But just think about it as parents out there. When your little boy falls down and scratches his knee and he starts crying, what do? Suck it up. You're fine. Don't cry. Don't cry.
Suck it up. Don't cry. Yeah.
Right. I mean, we start doing this training since their childhood, right? We start training them to be men, to don't cry over a scratch, don't cry over a cut, suck in your emotions, don't hold them back because that shows weakness and blah blah blah. We start doing that only because we know that in a society that we live in, any sign of weakness is taken advantage of, right? And you see it every day. Look at the presidency, right? Any sign of weakness, we're getting taken advantage of. So
absolutely, yeah.
So it's important that we first establish that men have been this. So just consider this: jobs. When you have a job, let's take law enforcement for example, right? Very familiar with that. So you work your job, right? Whether it's a 10-hour or 12-hour shift, You work your job. You see the worst of society out there, because that's when they call you. They call you when you have to deal with problems, firemen or whatever the case is.
Right.
You deal with that, first responders, whatever, corrections, law enforcement, all those things. You deal with that. You see that every day. Do you go home and do you share that with your family?
No.
Would you do that? Like, for example, if you, San Bernardino, for example, downtown San Bernardino, all kinds of stuff going on. You see all kinds of the worst of society happening. California in general, right? Do you go home and tell your spouse who's pregnant or who has little children, hey, guess what I saw today? Guess, this and that? Or no, you don't, right? You have to be that solid rock, that foundation for your
Right.
family that comes to you and tells you their problems, right? And you sucking it. So you're taking your wife's problems, you're taking your little kid's problems from school. Guess what happened? Little Billy beat me up today, blah, blah, blah. You're dealing with that and your teachers and everything. You're taking all these emotions and you're trying to redirect traffic, right? You're like that traffic cop, that you see in Asia, right? He's in the middle of the road, he's dancing, he's moving traffic, boom, 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 right? That's who men are. Men are like, oh, you know what? Hey, hun, don't worry about that. You know what? It'll be fine. We'll figure it out. Look, I'll work some extra shifts. We'll get it down. Don't worry about it, right? And when you're in the bathroom, right, going over, your phone in the toilet, you're sitting there thinking, how the hell am I going to do this, right? But you don't tell your wife this. You don't tell your wife like, oh man, I don't know how we're going
Right.
to do that, right? Because that's a sign of weakness. That's going to show.
Yeah, absolutely.
In our minds, we're like, oh my God, now she's going to panic. And when she panics, she makes my life miserable because it's so difficult to deal with it. Right? Because there's an expectation also from women of men, right? But we're just talking about society as a whole right now. So men are looked at as that cornerstone, that first layer of foundation that you set down in a family. That's who that man is, right? And just look at jobs today, Jay. Equal. Everyone wants. Who's that? This just happened. Who's that soccer player that would kneel for the flag that just lost to women's soccer for the USA?
Oh yeah. I don't remember her name. That's how important she is.
She's
in my
irrelevant.
life.
Anyway, the point being that she's arguing for equal rights and blah blah blah, bro. I think they took like a high school soccer team or something to play against boys high school soccer or something to play against women or so. I don't know what it was. I heard something about this. Might be lies, and they beat them or they could. I'm like, come on, let's look at things for what they are. Who's going to draw more attention to who's going to bring more money in, the NBA or the WNBA? Right.
Well, yeah, definitely the NBA.
Right.
So,
and I'm not, look, ladies out there, I'm not being sexist in any way. I'm just, reality is what it is. Just like I or Jay could never, ever be a mother and give birth to a child. We'll never experience that. No matter how hard we try, no matter what kind of little plastic babies they put in us to poop out, we're not going to ever give birth to another human being. We're not. We're just not. We're never going to experience that. So you guys have your experiences, right? And men have theirs, and the bone structure is different, muscle mass is different. Everything's different about a male, right? We even got different chromosomes, right? So
XY.
There you go. So it's important to for you to understand that I'm not speaking in it as a male or as a toxic male at the moment. I'm talking about just reality as a whole, right? Do you see a lot of women doing manual labor work, like construction work, building skyscrapers, doing like that? No, you don't. You don't see that. You don't see a lot of women. You don't see a lot of women out working in picking up garbage, right? In those big old garbage trucks. You don't see a lot of that. You don't see them out there where it's hot and sweaty laying layers of tar on the roadway. You don't see those things, right? Let me tell you, I'll be the first to tell you, it's okay. We don't expect to see you out there. I, as a man, would not want to see you out there. Because we look at you in a different facet. We look at you like you are the giver of life, right? And we protect you, and it's not something that we
Absolutely.
like. We want to oppress you or anything like that, but you play a very significant and important role to us, and that's why we feel like, hey, it's our job, it's our duty to protect you and stuff like that. In doing so, we have no outlet. We have no outlet to none of this, right? So, one of the outlets that we do have, and this is where the toxic part, I think, comes in when people talk about being toxic in males, is when we have nobody to turn to because we're that rock or that foundation. We don't want to, and it makes us feel weak, right? That we can't handle this. This is what we were raised for. Damn it, to get my family out of this, right? So you know who we talk to? We talk to those beer cans. That's who we talk to, or to our friends,
Right.
or we talk to our friends in disgusting ways, right? We talk about stupid things, but that's how we relieve our stress, and that's just the
Right.
stress that's at the surface. We're not talking about that deep emotional stress that, sometimes I guarantee you, bro, there was times that when in early stages of my marriage, I did not know how I was going to come out of some of these situations. I felt like God just kept putting more and more. Like, we lived in these rundown apartments, and then on top of that, we get robbed, and they steal our kids' stuff, and on top of that, it's roach infested. On top of that, there's just more and more and more.
Right.
And before you know it, we're boom, working hard. And I was lucky enough that I was able to get good jobs and work hard and dedicated my life to where my wife then was able to stay home and raise our children, right? Before you knew it, I had my first house. Before you knew it, I had two houses. Then boom, I sell all my houses and buy a huge house, and you build up on that, right? And before you know, you feel accomplished.
Right.
You're like, yeah, I did this for my family, right? But that's what a male does. But how do we relieve that stress? How do we let it go? Because what we do is we jump from one thing to another, right? We're like that. We don't have time to think about it. We don't have time to stress. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep pushing. We're like machines, right? We'll just keep going and struggling, and we'll deal with it with drinking. We're going to drink with our buddies tonight, eat some carne asada, some tacos, and get drunk, And then I wake up in the morning, go back to work, and it's a routine, and I don't worry about it anymore until, guess what? Your wife brings up another problem, right?
Right.
Or your kids bring up another problem, or society brings up another problem, right? But nowadays, bro, you can't even be a man. Why? Because women are trying to be men. You know what I mean?
Right.
And where does that leave us? Because now they're using them as the example. So now that's the norm, right? When you have a transgender is the norm of masculinity, that's really a woman. So she has more tendencies to show emotion and stuff like that. But that's going to be the norm now, because people look at it as transgender as a true person, but it's in the word trans. Kind of like Transformers, transgender. It's the same thing. So now you're basing that. Look at that guy, that transgender male over there. Look at him. He shows his emotions. He loves to do pottery. He loves to go with his wife to shopping. I'm like, because that's a woman. It's a woman dressed like a man.
Yeah.
But that's still not a man. You know what I mean? So now they've made it even worse. They made it even harder and more difficult for males to express themselves, because now you're even weaker. And it's just, men need to understand that it's okay to show emotion. It's
Right.
okay to take your time and break down. I think one of the biggest things, and we've mentioned this in several of our episodes on different subjects. I think the core thing that you and I both talk about that's important is communication, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Men get yelled at for being, sometimes too aggressive or too open and saying things that are. So what happens over time is you shut down, because anytime you say anything, because there's this thing out in the world that says, no, we want to hear what you have to say. No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't want to hear what we have to say. There's a really great scene in the movie Heat.
I told you when we hooked up, baby, that you were going to have to share me with all the bad people and all the ugly events on this planet.
And I bought into that sharing because I love you. I love you fat. Bald, money, no money, driving a bus. I don't care. But you have got to be present like a normal guy some of the time. That's sharing. This is not sharing. This is leftovers.
I see. What I should do is come home and say, "Hi, honey. Guess what? I walked into this house today where this junkie just fried his baby in a microwave because it was crying too loud. So let me share that with you. Come on, let's share that. And in sharing it, we'll somehow cathartically dispel all that. Right? Wrong. You know why?
Because you prefer the normal routine. Then you lose the power of speech.
Because I got to hold on to my angst. I preserve it because I need it. It keeps me sharp, on the edge, where I gotta be.
Well, that's correct. You don't want to hear the conversation that actually is going on in our head or what's actually going on. You want to hear the
What
things
we're
that
dealing with.
You want to hear, right?
Yeah.
And there's a big difference on that. And
Absolutely.
society has created this whole thing of toxic masculinity. So men are, no matter what they say or feel or come across as, they are being toxic. And that is crazy, because if you truly say that everybody should allow their feelings to get out there, then if a guy's feelings are toxic, as long as it's not hurtful towards somebody, right? They're just expressing how they feel about a subject, a situation,
Right.
whatever it is. That shouldn't be considered toxic, because if you want to say that, then once a month, women have toxic emotions, right?
What,
Would that be
once a
fair to
month, bro?
say?
Once a month?
Right? So, yeah, and
Just kidding,
exactly.
ladies.
So just because you
I
have
love you.
hormonal
Imbalances?
emotions, that doesn't mean you're wrong. It just means that it's something that's going on that needs to be figured out, whether through you or through your, healthcare provider or something like that. But yeah, so there's different levels of it. Society has its expectation from men that has never went away, but now there's definitions that are changing. So like Joe was saying, you have men that are becoming women because they want to dress up and do that whole thing. And hey, again, you're an adult. You want to go, you watch the Barbie movie one too many times and you want to play house like that, knock yourself out, right? The thing is that is still somebody with XY chromosomes that are going to have those kind of emotions. You can pretend you want to live this other life. Deep down, it's one of the reasons why folks in that group of people have such an issue with self-eradication. I mean, and we're going to use that word instead of the other word because YouTube doesn't like it. So, and it's really high in that group. Now, here's the thing: self-eradication, if you were to cut our society in half, it's basically 50% male in the United States and 50% female. Now that's amongst people that are registered citizens or are supposed to be here and all that. Because with the influx of basically military age men coming through the border, that's probably changing right now. But so 50-50, right? So you would think self-eradication, right? People doing away with themselves would be basically even. As of right now, it's 3.6 to 1. 3.6 men will self-eradicate before one woman does. So why is that? Why is it there's that much a disparity between men and women?
There's no outlet.
There's no outlet, yeah. And well, here's the thing: if women are downplayed in everything, don't get paid as much, don't get as much in sports, yada yada yada, all this, and men are benefiting so much from this patriarchal system and world, then why would they be, self-eradicating more than women if they have such an advantage? So it's a big question to keep out there. With, when it comes, you step to the next layer from society's expectation to men, and then you go to women's expectations. Well, there's so much of a disparity there because now you have, for example, and you guys can put in the comments, as a female, what do you expect from a guy? And, because we do a ton of research on different subjects that we watch, I can't even tell you the amount of YouTube videos I've seen on so many different subjects. I'll watch ones that have like, they'll question, females. Hey, what do you look for in a guy? What do you want? And I mean, it's almost the same thing all the time. And there's these guys or gals that will give the statistics on all this stuff, and they'll say, I want a guy of a specific height, I want a guy making six figures, and sometimes they're very specific. He's got to be making 300,000 a year. He's got to be 6'2", this, and this.
Damn, that wiped me out, bro. You really just wiped me out, man.
Well, dude, the thing is I mean, I've seen some, they're like, listen, that's 0.012% of the populace will be that guy that you're looking for. And the problem with that is now that one guy, right, gets all these girls, because all these girls will go after this one guy, and he can have anybody he wants because he's what everybody wants. He's the same guy, and he's the quote unquote player. And then the girls are, why can't I ever find a nice guy? Well, because you're all going after the same guy that can have whatever he wants. So why would he
want you?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so, it's created this paradigm of we're never going to be able to have this cohesion in relationships, right? And you see it a lot now. I don't know if you've heard of Pearl Davis. You heard of her? She's a males' rights advocate. Everybody's heard of Andrew Tate.
Yeah. I know it is.
Andrew Tate's really big into that too. And what they say most of the time is actually very accurate. The way they're presenting some of the stuff, I don't always tend to agree with it, because they're coming across a little
assertive, aggressive.
Well, so you have statistics and things that are true, right? But then there's things that are a little bit more emotional, opinionated, that aren't, actual. But these are things that you can. And usually, I'm trying to think of the group. It's one where it's a bunch of girls sitting there around microphones. There's a couple guys usually asking questions and stuff like that.
Oh, bro, the way you started the description, I was about to say, is that Pornhub?
No, it's not that. This you can see on YouTube, and you don't have to pay for it or anything. So, but anyhow, they'll talk about, well, like, what is it that, why don't you like guys for this reason? Or what is it about, what are you looking for specifically in men? And the thing is the standard. So one of the things that was asked was like, you mentioned it a little bit ago here, a guy that picks up trash for a living. Mm-hmm. And the girl said, no, that's just not, he doesn't vibe with my chi and my cha and whatever, and my crystals don't like him and all kinds of stuff. So it's like, okay, but one of the things you wanted was a guy that's masculine, but that makes money. Well, these guys make good money. A lot of people in trade, kind of things, they actually make good money. And you don't think about it. You look at them and you say, oh, that must be something that doesn't pay very good. Well, some of these guys make really good money. They make into the six figures, the thing that you say you're looking for. But so if it's like, well, I want somebody that makes six figures, but not in this category of these kind of jobs.
If he's a garbage man, bro.
Right. He doesn't work for a Fortune 500 company kind of thing. So if you start looking at it, a guy has nothing when he starts out, right? You get out of high school, you get into college, and he's fun to hang out with, but what are girls in college usually doing? They're looking for older guys. Why? Because they're already established. They already have a house. They already have a car. They already have a bank account. All those kind of daddy issues. Yeah. No, but it's one of those things that this has kind of been instilled in us.
It's called future security is what it is. They're looking for future security, and women could sit there and say anything they want. I'm telling you right now, women, again, don't be mad at me. I love you. But you guys could be mad at me for this, but you guys say you don't want this. You don't want this toxic masculinity, which is a person who is tough, who goes after what he wants, protects his family, all these things that, restrains from showing emotion, not because he wants to be tough, but because he needs to be. Can you imagine you coming home as a woman, coming home having a rough day at work? You're, for maybe the sale went at Nordstrom's, the sale was gone when you got there a day late, right? And you come home distressed and just out of control. Oh my God, you didn't get that purse, right? And I'm just kidding. So you have a bad day at work, right? And you come home and you're in tears, right? Because women are emotional. Let's not deny it. Women are emotional. You come home in tears because Peggy Sue said something to the boss, and the boss questioned you, and now you're emotional wreck, and you can't cry at work, right? Because then this other girl's gonna look at you like, I got the best of you, right? You hold that in until you get home and you break down, you start crying. Can you imagine your husband sitting there next to you crying with you? Like you would be like,
you would
what?
not.
You'd be
You
like,
would
what?
not respect him.
You're like, what are you doing? This is my,
Yeah.
are you gaslighting me? What, you know what I mean? Dude, you'd be getting divorced, man. So let's be honest, women, you don't want that. You don't want that man sitting next to you, crying with you, holding your hand together, sipping some hot cocoa, right? With a weighted blanket over your legs because you guys are just talking it out, maybe paint your fingernails or what. You don't want that from a man. You know you don't. You could say you do all day long, but you know that you want someone you come home to, he's gonna hold you tight and he's gonna tell you it's gonna be all right. Don't worry about it. You know what? Quit that job. You know what? You don't need it. You don't need that aggravation. You don't need that stress. Quit that job. You find another one. Don't worry about it. I got this. That's what you want. You don't want to tell people that, but that's exactly what you want. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with wanting that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But here's the thing. There's going to be a breaking point for men. There's always is. There's a breaking point for everybody, right? And what are those breaking points? What are those key things that people start noticing that are breaking points? Aggression, drinking, sleepless nights, right? Those things, microaggressions, whatever, it's called stress. Men get it, believe it or not. Men get depressed. Men get stressed, right? All these things happen to men. A lot of things happen to men. They have to figure life out as we go. And it's not something we, as kids, it's fed into us, both boys and girls, right? If my daughter did something wrong it's like the police. What happens when you're out with your kids, right? And your kids are misbehaving. You want the police officer to take you away? You want him to take you away? Right? We scare them with the police, correct? Am I wrong, Jay?
Yeah,
no.
that's true.
So what? Now take that exact picture. You're at home, right? And your kids are driving. You're a woman. Your kids are driving you insane. And right the moment that your husband gets home, you're your dad's home. I'll let him deal with you. Now you're gonna have to go deal with your dad, right? Pawn him off to dad, right? He is the one that's going to be dealing with the consequences of these children's bad behavior. We are taught this from young age, right? Boy or girl. Oh, you're going to get it with your dad. You're going to get it. So we have to play that role. We're that role model for boys and girls. We have to switch that switch, Jay. You have to go from raising a boy, it's like, hey, suck it up, get up, don't cry, you'll be fine, nothing happened, your knee's fine, to your little girl, to like, hey, you're okay, honey, come on, come here, but two different roles you have to play.
Right.
They're both your kids. They're both different roles, right? Because one's a little girl, one's a little boy. And so, and you're more drawn to protect your daughter. I mean, you protect all your children, no matter what. You'll start wars for your children, right? But your daughter, she's a little girl, right? She is weaker, right? And I'm just saying, this is what goes in men's mind. She's weaker. She needs protection. She needs male protection, right? From the darkness of society. Right? Where the boys, they could fend for themselves. You start teaching them how to carry a little bat and you start swinging and go for the knees. You joke around and, you start clearing buildings with your kids and the BB guns, right? You'd start doing different things, right? The little girl, you buy her little teacup sets, you buy her little dolls, you buy her all these little things. Boys, you buy these little lifted remote control trucks and stuff like that. Role, you define the roles at an early age. right? And as a child, as a boy, you grow up to be a man. You are defined by society, by your parents, by everybody, what your roles are, right?
Yeah.
As a woman, same thing. So this is the problem that we're having now when we have kids of today who don't come from a nuclear family. You don't have that guidance. You don't have it, right? And that's another problem. Of course, that's another subject. But at what point, Jay, are men able to release that stress? At what point could they show that emotion? At what point do they need to seek help? You know what I mean? Because I'm telling you right now, guys, you could say you're tough as nails, you could say all kinds of things, but you're going to break. There's a breaking point for everybody, and how that breaking point looks is different for everybody, right? The breaking point could be that you just broke and then you commit adultery or infidelity to your spouse, or you beat your spouse, or you become a alcoholic, or I mean, there's so many, or you scroll through porn at middle of the night when everybody else is sleeping. There's your breaking point could be so many things, right? And these are just all things that, and all it is, guys, I'm telling you right now, all it is your mind getting distracted by something else, because that's
Right.
what you need. You need that distraction, whether it's bad or good. You need to set your mind somewhere else, and that's the problem that we don't address. And we need to, as men, we need to say, mental health for men just happened in June. I believe it was in June. Did you hear anything about it? Was it made a
No.
big deal? No, no one cares.
No, and
because
you
in
never
reality,
will.
no one cares about men.
And that's 100% true. There's a great clip, and I'll insert it right here.
Mr. Tidwell, you are not his father. It's okay. We're all here. We're all here.
Juliana, I'm here with you. I'm not going to leave you. Okay? Calm down.
It's a guy that's in the courtroom, and his girlfriend is in the courtroom also, and they find out that the child that they've had, that he's been taking care of and everything, is actually not his. And the guy starts getting teary-eyed in the courtroom. And where does everybody go? Where does everybody go? They go to console her, not him. They don't care. This guy has lived a lie from his girlfriend, wife. You can see in the video what it is, but
Is this a movie?
no, it's a like a clip from, I don't know, People's Court or something like that.
Oh wow, that's crazy, man.
Yeah. And so, everybody consoles her. Nobody cares about him. Again, this is what we're talking about. And I'm not saying this always happens. However,
Majority.
everything is skewed towards, in divorce court and all these kind of things, that the male gets, really beat up when it comes to divorces and child custodies and all that kind of thing. And it's really made men now extremely, extremely gun shy from, getting married or getting in serious relationships, moving a female in with them or anything. And it's like, I understand both sides. Some women are like, well, you can't not trust, every woman and this and that. And I agree with it. However, women are going to look at their previous relationships and compare you to at least one of them. Maybe not the last one, maybe not the one before that, but the one before that was really good, but he was missing 1, 2, and 3 or something like that. And you're being compared to, as a guy, you're being compared to that guy back that far. The thing is that men have a later start in life of being an attractive mate, or what a woman actually looks for. So, quick example. There's a guy out in Newport Beach in California. He's got a yacht, right? He's inviting people on his yacht. There's a 20-year-old guy watching this and a 20-year-old girl watching this. Both pretty equal in everything. They're in college. Maybe they got a job part-time at Starbucks, whatever. who do you think would be invited onto that boat first?
Female.
The guy? Absolutely. There's no question.
But
Why would you
I'm gonna
invite the
sneak on
guy?
that boat. But I'm going to sneak.
Why
in.
would you invite the guy? Why would you invite him? He has nothing, for this guy that's on this boat. Why am I going to invite another dude on a boat that is 20 years old that has nothing in his life? Maybe even still lives with his mom. Now she still lives with her mom.
It's harsh.
She still lives with her mom. Doesn't have any money in the bank per se or anything. Same as far as equity as he has, but she has more going for her early on. So females have a lot more going for them early on to be able to get out into society and do their thing.
Happens
Guys
at
have
nightclubs
to
all the time.
Yeah, guys have to ramp up their who they are for years, 10 years of dedication of a job, college, whatever, to be able to make money and all this kind of stuff. Because the thing is, so here's the two sides of things. So any girls that are out there watching, so let's say you want to become the boss babe, right? You want to make all this money, make a 6-figure income. You move in with the guy. How much of your money do you give to the guy? You would think it would be 50%, right? Most girls are, that's my money. I get to keep my money and do whatever I want with it. Okay. So roles are reversed. The guy's making 6-figure income. How much of his money is he supposed to give to you? Does he get to keep it all? Does he get to do whatever he wants with it? No, he shares that. So there's a whole different conscript in society of how
what's
a man
yours is mine. What's mine is mine. That kind of concept.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I really can't stand this saying, happy wife, happy life. And another thing that I hate the saying of, it's a 50-50 relationship.
Never.
Those are both terrible things. If your relationship is 50-50, it will not work. I promise you. Your relationship has to be 100-100. You're giving 100% and they're giving 100%. There's going to be days of struggle. And
could I give you my concept of that percentage?
Yes.
So I've always said this. I've not practiced it, and I should have, but mine is 60-40. And here's the reason why. Some days one person's gonna have to give a little bit more than the other.
That's very true.
So it's never even split. It never will be, because some days the man will need that encouragement. Some days the woman might need that encouragement. So there's always an unbalance of percentages, and that it's up to that partner to even that up, to match it up. So I agree it's not a 50-50, but it's not also 100-100. I mean, I see the effort into it, but I think that there's always something lacking. And then it can't always be lacking from one side. But it has to, I just feel that as a team, like anything else, when a football team, you're going to get players that are good in different areas. There's not one player that's good at everything, right? They're good at one certain thing, and they've mastered that thing. So the relationships are the same thing. There's no one in this world that is perfect. There's only one person that's ever existed, and he was crucified. And that was the only person.
They treated him like garbage. So think about that. The most perfect guy that ever walked this earth.
That's the only person is our Savior Jesus Christ, is the only one, right? And so no one's perfect. So take that out of your head. If you think you're perfect, eradicate that. That's a lie. You're only lying to yourself. And if you think you'll find a partner that's perfect, again, you're wrong. You might say, oh my God, when you're in love, you'll say anything. When you're in love, like, oh my God, he's so perfect, right? But then you start living together, it's like, oh, I don't like how you snore. I'm like, bitch, have you heard yourself? Clearly not, But anyway, no one's perfect. So we have to. So when two people come together, they're two imperfect people that find perfection in each other, right? And you have to build on that. You have to build each other up and not tear each other down, because then what's the point? You're an anti-team at that point. You're not working as a team. You're working against each other. And I'm going to tell you something, Jay. I don't blame women at all. And I don't blame men. It is, like I said earlier, this is how we're raised. We're raised as kids, that your father is the head of the household. He's going to deal with it. And you wait till he gets home, right? The mom is the emotional one, the ones that kids go to when they got an emotional thing to talk about. They go to mom. Right. They're not going to go to dad. They're going to go to mom, right? Dad's the one that's like, Dad, I need $10. Dad, I need to go here. Dad, all right, right? Mom's the one's like, guess what happened today? And that's going to be mom. So do you think that's important in a relationship? Absolutely. Let me tell you why.
Yeah.
When I disciplined my kids, they'd go to mom, and mom was that emotional blanket for them, right? Didn't mean my kids didn't love me. They loved me, but they had to go somewhere. So could you imagine if both of us were a-holes and were disciplinarians? Who would they go to? Nobody, right?
Right.
So you have to, again, there's that balance, right, Jay? There's that balance. You have to have someone that's emotional. And that's always going to be the mom. Let's face it. Even when kids grow up, men or women, and there's some emotional thing going on, who are they going to go to? Mom. They're not going to go to dad. They go to mom.
Right.
They go to mom. They go to, you know what they go to dad for? Hey, dad, do you have a socket set? Or, hey, dad, could I get some money? That's what they go to dad for, right? Because if they go to mom for that, what are they going to say? Ask your dad. Go ask your
Right.
dad. But that's just the gender roles that we play. And
Yeah.
And I just think that, and that's why I'm sorry, I took off more than that I needed to from you. But I just wanted to show my percentage and how I see things and how we should build each other and not knock each other down.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Now I'm glad you grabbed the subject and ran with it. Yeah, and kind of going back on what you were saying with with kids going to a father for certain aspects, especially young boys. I'm not saying young girls don't need their dads too, but especially young boys. This has been probably one of society's greatest downfalls at this moment, because a lot of the boys that are becoming fathers now, right, didn't have a father figure to teach them that. And this whole toxic masculinity thing, a lot of these guys that are so toxic, it's because they were raised by their mom only. They weren't raised by a dad that would have told him, listen, if I ever catch you being rude or mean to a woman, especially your mother, your grandmother, your sisters, or anything like that, right? I mean, you said something a little while ago about how, it's not that you wouldn't protect your boys, but your little girl is your little girl. That's who you protect, right? And what I was going to say while you were talking about that, well, even your boys would have said the same thing, because they would want to protect their sister, your daughter, right?
Yeah.
And because that's instilled in them. When we have this absentee fatherism, it's really having an effect on our society, and we are seeing it. So right now, it's, and there's not an exact number, because there's people lie about, if the dad's in the home or not to get money and stuff like that. Our government's created this nonsense, but it is an estimated 24.7 million children that live absent of a father. That is 33% of our child populace. 33%, 1/3 of the population of the United States has no dad in their life. So, and we wonder why out on the streets all these kids are acting crazy. Dude, when I watched videos of these kids going, like breaking into, and it's mainly kids, yeah, you may see a 40-year-old here or there, but it's people that are younger, man, that are breaking into the Nike store and breaking into Walgreens and all this kind of stuff. And why is that happening? Because they have no fear of the police. They have no fear of their teachers or anything like that. Well, why don't they fear those people? Because they never had a dad to fear. You know why it wasn't that I didn't know that stuff was wrong when I was a kid. It was, I feared, number one, and we talked about this in the beginning, number one, that my dad would beat the crap out of me. And number two is that I had a respect for my family. I didn't want, any of that kind of thing to be, that disrespect cloud to be over my family. And if you look at certain demographics, and this always gets thrown around a lot, but you look at like a lot of your Asian families, right? Most of them are together. Most of them still have the same basic traditions that they have for the father and the mother role and what is expected of the children. Now, I'm not saying that sometimes those kids are like, man, my parents are really rough on me. All my other friends get to do this and this and that. But why is it that when we start talking about this kind of stuff, that a lot of these Asian kids don't grow up to be breaking into the Nike store and everything. Why do they get better grades? Why do they go on to have a good family and raise their kids right? Because they stick to this standard. We have the government has made it a priority to get fathers out of the home, right? And I mean, you can look at it every day on TV. How many times do you hear the word toxic masculinity? You hear it, and if you watch CNN or MSNBC, you're going to hear it at least once an episode, at least once, if not more.
Yeah.
So these things create an issue. And now it goes on to the next level where, we were talking about women and their, what they are looking for in a guy. Well, guys look for certain things too. And have you heard of this whole new thing? I mean, it's not super new, but it's really gaining traction as far as the wording goes, is passport bros. Have you heard that?
What is it?
Passport bros.
Oh, is that when men go like to find women overseas?
Yeah. So that is a huge thing that's popping up now, because these guys are, they're saying, get your passport and go over to, the Philippines or go somewhere else, because these women will treat you better and they're not westernized. Now, a lot of the rebuttal on that is like, well, okay, so you go over there, you bring them back over here, give them 6 months, and all the women in their circle are going to say, you need to take his money from him. You're not getting everything you want. He's keeping you at the home, and you're only cooking all day.
It's like that stand-up sketch from Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy back in the day. Yeah. Yeah. She comes over here with the bone in her nose, and by the end, she's like, I want half, Eddie. I want half.
Yeah, you ain't wrong, bro. I've seen too many episodes of those 90-day engagements. Mm-mm.
Oh, yeah.
Scare
my
me,
gosh.
boy. But let me tell you, I just want to say this real quick for all you men out there and women. Women, let men be men. Nothing wrong with that. Let them be who they are. That's how they were raised, and that's what made them who they are. Men, you need to go out there, if you go to church, go to men's groups. And it's a great place to start talking about some of these issues that you have. Find retreats just for men. Go out there where you guys can all talk about, what's going on and things like that. Don't be fearful of talking about your emotions and some of the things that bring you down. You'll find out that it's so refreshing to just let it out, for someone to actually just hear all that stuff that you carry. Don't carry it with you. I'm gonna tell you right now, because when you break down, some people could, like I said, they take it differently. Self-eradication is no joke. I mean, it happens every day in our society. And some of these are even specific to certain jobs related. You have PTSD in military, law enforcement, first responders. They're dealing with everything from the worst to some incredible things. And remember, when you guys see that, and I know how it is, Jay, you know this, when people see this, when people are at work, whether you're in law enforcement, whether you're a first responder, whether you're a paramedic picking up a child who had just got run over or whatever the case is, the first thing you think about is your own kids, your own children, and the
you reflect back.
Yeah, that's so hard. And you get home, you hug your kids, or some of these men, they work all their lives and they're providing for their family, and they become absent dads, not because they choose to, but because that's what they've chosen to be in their relationship as the male role. Right? They haven't chosen to abandon their children. They've chosen to provide for their children. And so don't get those things confused. But men, you need to get out there and you need to find these groups and find a retreat, or what's good, man, get yourself some camping gear on your own. Go out there to the wilderness and just take it in, man. Enjoy it and just see God's beauty out there in everyday life, and enjoy yourself. Desensitize yourself from society and the way women and society sees you. You have to get away. You really do. And women, you have to allow them to do that. And when they go hang out with their buddies and go drink, let them do it, man. Because you know what they're doing? They are just flushing themselves from all that stuff they carry, because they're not going to go home and talk to you about their day, because you don't want to hear it. Let's be honest. You want them to come home so they could hear your day. And that's okay. We'll do it. But when it's their turn, let them do it. I don't know. Jay, what do you say? What do you think?
No, that's totally right. Get out there and find something that you like to do. Most guys that have an okay mental state usually go bowling. They they play in a band, right? They
Target practice?
Target practice, yeah, anything. Go fishing. There's a lot of guys like fishing has become really. I'm not a big fishing fan, but I would go. If we had a friend or something that said, "Hey, man, would you guys go fishing with us?" Yeah, let's go. Anything as a hobby.
Ice fishing. That's something.
Ice fishing.
Bro.
There we are. We're going to Canada, eh?
Hey, you don't have to go that far, bro. You can just come here where I live.
Yeah, no kidding.
I got 4 of the 5 Great Lakes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's no ice fishing here, man.
No.
Fire fishing, maybe. I don't know. Well, listen, thanks so much for hanging out with us today. I'm Jay, and that's Joe. And this has been Joe and Jay Outspoken. If you had fun or learned anything, do us a favor, like, subscribe, comment, and share. If there's a topic you would like to see us cover in the future, let us know at joeandjayproductions.com/ideas. If you would like to help the cause, it can be as small as liking, subscribing, and commenting. You can also grab merch from the Outspoken store or become one of our Patreon members. Before we close, we're going to have some numbers here at the end, and we will have already had some numbers all the way through. So if you need any help or anything, please take advantage of it. Joe and I care a ton about you guys out there and make sure that you're taking care of yourself. So thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. Take care of one another.
And remember, guys, do better, be better, especially for yourself.
And as always,
God bless America.